everybody, welcome back to the Chaotic Little Book Corner. My name's Acacia. We're at a weird angle today, which is like a total corner angle. It's there is no space in this house right now, or this room I should say, because T's getting ready to move out. So everything of hers that she owns is on the floor right now. All of it. Alright, so let's start with our Advent today. I feel so Advent envy of Lauren from Lauren in the Books and from a couple others, because I don't think the US has good Advent calendars, or they do, and they're just not in Maine. That's a very big potential. So today is the 7th, and it's a little interesting. It's just not really sure what to say that. It's like almost like a port with snow woodblock print. I mean, I don't know. See, I'm seriously having I'm having serious Advent envy. All right, so today we're going to be doing a review video on two books. One of them I received one of them for review. And then the other one I received as a gift from Amanda Center. However, they are both from House of Anansi, which is a publishing company in Canada. And I told them that I would review this, but I also offered to review this for them as well. I haven't really done a full end-of review of either of these yet. So this is like old school way back when in the, I think this was like summer that I read these, but I wanted to review them for you guys. So let's start here. This is a short story collection. This was sent to me for review by the House of Anansi, as I said. This is Double Dutch, and it's by Laura Trunkney. So I went into this having heard about the story from the perspective of Topsy, the elephant that was from Thomas Edison, and her death, and Thomas Edison and his experiments on animals and all of those things. And that was the initial story that caught my attention and caused me to want to be a part of this book. And plus, you know, elephant on the cover. Like, okay, first of all, the publishing of this book is gorgeous. And I think I really fell in love with that story. Now, I don't know if everyone would love that story, because I knew about, I'm not gonna lie, my knowledge of Topsy is almost all in reference to Bob's Burgers, the episode where Louise does a science project on Topsy. So, that's probably not the best reference of education on that one, but it gave me enough of a reference to, one, be interested in the story, and two, understand that Thomas Edison was testing his electricity on an elephant and it killed her. So, the story is actually told from the perspective of Topsy, and that was my favorite part of it, was that it was so obscure and weird. But it is a short story collection, and that's not the only story in here. I enjoyed the other stories in here quite a bit. I liked the first one immensely. A woman has a child, and he is evil and a terrorist. That one was a really interesting, I read it as a commentary on postpartum, and the idea that a mother was afraid that she was unable to love her own child when they started to behave erratically. And as much as this mother wanted to love her child, she thinks the child is evil. Now, reading it in this postpartum concept, where you're reading it as a mother who's afraid that her child is evil and that she can't love them, and then she's not sleeping because she's obsessed with this idea that this child is evil, so the madness of not sleeping kind of ensues even higher, and the fear of this child becomes even greater, was really interesting, and I think that was the best way to read it. A lot of these I found were very well read when you gave them a context of realistic responses to abnormal problems. I really enjoyed this collection. I thought it was so well written and really beautiful. I really would love to read anything else Laura Trunke comes out with. And I think that I would love to see a full novel from her because I enjoy her writing so much. There were some stories in here that I felt were not as high level as others, but all in all, I loved this collection, and it'll always be on my shelf because it's one of my favorite short story collections now. The other book is The Butcher's Hook. Now, this is by Janet Ellis, and this did its rounds on YouTube, and I definitely saw a lot of conversation about the romance of her and the butcher's assistant, and the weird aspects of things, and how it gets a little twisted and dark and kind of creepy, which is great. It definitely does all those things. But the thing about this book that really captivated me more than anything is the conversation that revolves around a young girl being put into a relationship with a man who has violated her trust on a sexual level. Now, when I say that, it's in the first chapter. You find out that the main character, Anne, is really, really actively interested in learning and becoming more intelligent and getting more invested in expanding her knowledge of the world. But that's not normal for a female in this time period. And so she ends up being in a connection with a man who can teach her things. And he violates her trust, advancing on her sexually. Now, it doesn't get too graphic, but it's definitely well portrayed that this man has crossed a boundary with her. And then the family decides that this man is the man that she should be in a relationship with and potentially marry. Because in those days, it was up to the family to decide who she married, and that was just, how it was done. So for me, I was more fascinated by the idea of this woman's response to a choice made for her to attach her to her violator than anything else. And her response to it is very dark and strange and warped and evil in its own way, but it's not wrong. And it's also not done in an unrealistic way. I can see many a woman responding in a somewhat dark or almost violent manner to the idea of having to settle down with their attackers or rapists or what have you. And that kind of trauma would definitely switch a person's brain to a less comfortable brain. I thought this book was fabulous, and I really enjoy it. And I think that it's one of those books that when you read it, you dive into it, and you think you've read it all, and you get it, but then you keep thinking about it, and you realize you need to go back. And I will read this next year because I loved it so much, and I think that it's just definitely one of those ones that I'll reread during the winter months because it's a winter read for me. But but all in all, I think that this book is so much deeper in terms of the conversation about violence against women and being controlled by men and the patriarchy and all of those things. I think it's a much more feminine text than I initially thought. And the more I've sat with it, the more I've come to that conclusion. I really love this book, and I actually really am a huge fan of all of the House of Nancy books. I think they're gorgeous. I think they're really, really great books to read. I find that their publications are just fantastic and really well executed, and they're beautifully published, and their covers are stunning. I just love them all around as a publisher. So I'm very, very happy to have reviewed those for you. If you have any more questions or comments or anything like that, below in the doobly-doo. I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye!